Good morning. So I wanted to make some notes for today's lesson before we even did it, just so that the notes are available for those of you who couldn't make it or your Wi-Fi is going crazy or getting kicked out of the meeting. All right, so we're doing lesson 1.2b, add like terms today. So lesson 1.2 is basically solving multi-step equations, starting with two-step equations and moving on to equations that have some more stuff. So yesterday we did two-step equations, and so we went through the process, and every problem that we did yesterday had two steps. So today we're going to be adding to that. So what you're going to see here is we have a key idea to solve multi-step equations, and it says here, using inverse operations to isolate the variable. Well, that sounds familiar. That's kind of what we've been doing, right? So the question, I guess, is what do we do with problems like 6a plus 5a? That's kind of different. That's different than what we've been doing. Equals negative 11. What do we do with solve 2 and then parenthesis 1 minus 5x, parenthesis plus 4 equals negative 8? Because that's another problem that's pretty different than what we've been doing. There's way more things on the one side than usually what we see. And so it's really kind of confusing. Like, what do we do with that? Well, we start with a plan. So we have to have a plan. So this over here is going to be the plan of what we are doing. Okay, so now what we're adding to this, so we've been doing this down here. We've been solving. And so we've been solving the problems. We had to, basically, we've done this step. Get the constants to one side. So we do the add and subtract, and then we've gotten the x alone by multiply and divide. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. Okay, so we're going to be looking at a whole nother step here. Because sometimes, and you see that in that problem, sometimes the problem doesn't come with everything simple. And so there's some steps we need to do to make it simple. So on the simplify step, and that's where we're at here, we're taking a look at the side that is not quite simple yet. Okay, and so what we're doing is we are like we're looking at 6a plus 5a. Can we make that simpler? We're looking at 2 times 1 minus 5x plus 4. Can we make it simpler? And there's some specific steps here that we could go through to do. And so those are the steps we're going to be talking about today. Now, one step that you are not going to do today, and I'm just going to gray this out here, we are not going to eliminate parentheses today. That'll be tomorrow's lesson. So after tomorrow, we will have gone through all the steps, well, most of the steps, okay? So in the simplify stage, we're looking at one side or the other. We're making them simple, not doing anything to both sides, add 7 to both sides or anything like that. So let's see what that looks like. So I've got some problems down here that look a lot like what you're going to see today. And I need to try to keep this so that the steps are showing. All right, so in the simplify stage, there's this one step, and it's kind of interesting. It's called draw the river, and I picked this up from a teacher a few years ago, and it's really good for people who are super visual and really need that reminder. And just the river is just a line basically that goes through the equal sign. And it's a very visual reminder that we have the left side of the problem and we have the right side of the problem, and they are separate. They are different, okay? So when we're doing the whole simplify stage, draw the river, eliminate parentheses, add like terms, we do not cross the river. We're only making simple things simple. It's like getting our house in order on the left side, getting our house in order on the right side before we move on to those solve steps. They're in the green on the list up there. Okay, so we draw the river, we eliminate parentheses, which I said we weren't going to do today. So I'm just going to move this up. So now we're on the add like terms stage. So I look at the left side. I have 8x minus 6x minus 25. And sure enough, I have some like terms. And this is why we reviewed this last week. We have 8x minus 6x. And so we're going to just add those like terms. And we're not like doing any kind of opposite operation. We're saying, oh, if I have 8x and I minus 6x, that gives me 2x. And so we're just simply adding the like terms, 2x. Now the minus 25 does not have anything, so that it is like on that left side. I mean, some of you might look over, well, what about the 35? Well, that's on the other side of the river. And when we're simplifying, we're not crossing that river. We're just dealing with the left side separately than the right side. So then this is what I end up with. So we now have a simplified equation. So we're going to jump down to the solve stage. Now you're going to notice there that in the solve, the very first thing is variable to one side. So I'm going to gray that out because we don't have a variable on both sides, and we won't have that till 1.3. We'll add that step later. So we don't even need to worry about that step. So now we're just jumping into the two steps that we were doing yesterday. I circle the X here. So I'm going to circle the X, and I'm going to say, okay, I need to get the X alone. So what do I need to get rid of? That 2 and the negative 25. And this should start to become just automatic. Get rid of the 25 by adding 25 to both sides. I'm going to put it out to the side because you can see I'm running out of room. That makes that 0, so I've eliminated that. I've got 2x equals negative 10. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And I'm going to write this out to the side. The 2 is eliminated because divide by 2 makes it 1. And so we end up with 1x equals negative 5. Okay, so that is how we solve that. So if I were to plug that in, and I'm just going to put this up here real quick. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40. Minus 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. Minus 25. Make my 2 marks. Let's see, negative 40 plus 30, negative 10, plus a negative 25, that's negative 35, and that's what we had on the other side, so that works. Okay, so it's good to do a little check. The problem with checks sometimes is that you can make some serious sign errors, and then you think it's not checking right, or you think it is checking right, and it shouldn't be. Okay, so that is the first example. So let me review what we did here. Drew the river, added like terms, and then we just jumped right into yesterday's lesson. We moved the constant over, the negative 25, eliminated that on the x side, and then we eliminated the coefficient on the x side. That's that x alone stage. So then we're all done. Okay, let's look at the next one. So I draw the river, drawing the river. I'm going to add like terms. So again, on this side, adding like terms, 6a plus 5a is 11a. And what you're going to find is, I'm just bringing this negative 11 down. What you're going to find is sometimes when you do the simplify, you end up with not a two-step equation, but a one-step equation, which is kind of nice. So all I have to do here, if I've got the a on this side, is eliminate that 11. Well, if this is 11 times a, then I'm simply going to divide by 11. A equals negative 1. Okay. So one more look at this. On this next problem, I'm going to draw the river. I look at that side. I notice that I've got some like terms. So I've got negative 4 plus 2 marks plus a negative 8. So negative 12n plus 17 equals 23. And I've simplified that. Okay, so now I jump into the solve. So again, acknowledging, recognizing that this is n. I need to eliminate the things on that side. So I need to eliminate the 17 and the negative 12. Eliminate the 17, it's plus 17, so we're going to minus 17. Again, just putting that over there for room's sake. 23 minus 17, I believe, is 6. You can shout at me later if I was wrong. 12n. Some of you look at this and say, this is 2. Make sure that you're not breaking some rules here. So I've got negative 12 dividing by negative 12, dividing by negative 12, and it's actually not 2. It's actually negative 1/2. So n equals negative 1/2. And so it is possible to get a fraction, and that in itself is a great reason to learn how to solve using this plan. Because those of you trying to do some guess and check on a problem like this, where it's going to be a fraction, as soon as fractions come into the mix, our options are limitless what we could have for an answer. Negative 1/2, negative 1/3, negative 1/5, negative 1/4, negative 1/8. There could have been a lot of things that would happen. Okay, so if I plug that in, negative 12 in, so that'd be 6 plus 17. Yeah. Okay, so that works. I just did a quick check in my head, and that's not always the best. It's better to write it down. But okay, so that is how to solve with that added step. Okay, coming back to here, we're adding that concept of simplifying before we solve. Draw the river, and for today's lesson, add like terms. And then when we go to solve, we're getting the constants to the other side, get the x alone. And that wraps that up. I'm sure you might have questions, so hopefully you'll get to the office hours, ask the questions in your breakout rooms today, or get to office hour tutoring time in the afternoon. Okay, please pay attention to times because I am not available 24/7. 7 days a week, 24 hours. I'm not available that much, so please hit those office hours to ask those questions. All right, thank you, and hopefully this helped. Come on.